Hey folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to quickly check out The Last Spike. This game is for 2 to 6 players for ages 10 and up, with the average play time being about 45 minutes. The idea of this game is pretty simple. Create a railway that spans from St. Louis to Sacramento, and the player that gets the most money when that happens will win the game. In order to get money in this game, though, you have to acquire the right land cards at the right time in order to get some really nice payouts. What do I mean? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the components so that you can see how the game is played. Okay, so as far as your components are concerned, we'll start with the box. Well, in fact, this is the box sleeve. The box fits right inside this thing. As far as the actual box goes, it folds open like a pizza box, of all things. Rarely see something like this. You've also got a baggie here for red, white, and blue chips. These act as currency in the game. You've also got a baggie here for these black tiles here. And on the reverse side, you've got basically stickers that list a letter, a number, and the cost associated with that tile. And you do have to put these stickers on whenever you first get the game. You have to spend some time putting these stickers onto these tiles. But anyway, the letters and numbers on these tiles match locations on the board. Like this is the E3 tile, so E3 is right here. You've got D4. D4 is right here. So basically you've got these tiles over here that match various spots on the board. Same thing with these cards up here. You've got like St. Louis, El Paso, Dodge City, Denver, and they're even color-coded. So here's red St. Louis, here's El Paso purple, here's El Paso purple, and so on. So a lot of these other components match something that's currently on the game board. And again, you've got these currency chips over here. You can see even the values on the bottom right-hand corner of the board. You've got 1 white, 5 is red, and 10 is blue. As far as setting up the game, basically what you're going to do is you're going to sort out the land cards by color or location, St. Louis for example, and you're going to put the cheapest on top, the little 0 with a line through it, and then you're going to put the most expensive on bottom in that order. So you've got 0, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000. You can see the cost of the card right here on the very top. Ignore these other numbers for right now. These come into play whenever you're dealing with payouts. So there's that. You're going to sort them all out by color. Again, cheapest on top, most expensive on the bottom. Each player is going to draw 1 tile from this face-down pile of tiles, and whoever is closest to A1 will get to go first. After that, players will receive some starting money, and it all depends on how many people are playing the game. In two-player game, for example, each player starts with 60,000, and a 5-player game, each player starts with 35,000, and so on. Again, blue is 10,000, red is 5,000, and the white is 1,000, and each player receives 4 of these tiles to form their starting hand. Alright, so a player's turn is broken up into 3 phases, if you will. The first thing you're going to do on your turn is place a tile down onto its matching space, and you have to pay the cost to the bank based on the amount shown on the tile. So here's D4, this one is 3,000, so in order to put D4 down like this, then you have to pay 3,000 to the bank. This is a mandatory action. You have to do this. If you don't have the money to do this, you have to give back some of the land cards that you've acquired throughout the game at half its value. Same thing with Monopoly. If you've ever played Monopoly, when you're about to go bankrupt in Monopoly, you have to mortgage your property for half the cost. Well, the same thing here. So you're going to put a tile down onto its matching space, pay the cost to the bank, and then you're going to check to see if a payout occurs. A payout occurs whenever you create a line from one city to another, and you're going to pay out on both cities. So if there was a D1, D2, and a D3 tile already here, and then I put this D4 tile down, then a payout will occur for both of these cities. To see how much you get, you take a look at the cards, and these cards all list the same thing except for the top, which is the cost of the card. Again, they get more expensive as you go, but if you had, say, 2 Omaha cards when this paid out, you'd get $14,000. If you had 5 Omaha cards whenever this paid out, this is worth $35,000. So basically, the more cards you have of a particular color when that city pays out, the better. Okay? Same thing with Denver. You're going to check the Denver cards to see how much they're worth. If you have 2 Denver land cards whenever Denver pays out, you'll get $10,000. If you have 4 Denver cards whenever Denver pays out, you'll get $20,000, okay? So again, just to recap, you put a tile down, this is mandatory, pay the cost of the bank, and then check to see if there's a payout. Okay, so a quick note about tile placement. Whenever you put a tile down, it needs to be next to a city or an already existing tile, so that all you have to pay is the 3,000 or whatever it is listed on the tile. If you happen to put a tile down that is not next to a city or an already existing tile, let's say I put E3 down, there's not an E4 or an E2 next to it, so you actually have to pay double the cost listed on the tile. So instead of 3,000, I'd have to pay 6,000. Another quick thing to note, whenever you are the first player to put a tile down next to a city, so you've got like V1, W1, E4, and D4, and D4 is the first tile touching this particular city. You get to take the top card for free. This is free land acquisition. You can even see the cost on the very top. It's free to do so. Once a player takes a card via this way, then players will be able to purchase more cards of that color later in the game. Okay, so the second thing a player is going to do on their turn, and this is optional by the way, is buy one of these land cards up here. Now again, you cannot buy a land card of a particular color if the free land grant is still present on the deck. Again, in order to get the free land grant, you have to be the first player to put a card next to a particular city. So in this case, I put a D4 next to Denver, I would get this, and then in the future, anyone could buy a land card from the deck starting from the top, and they get more expensive as you buy them. So the first Denver card costs 1,000, second one 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, and so on. And these other cities have different costs, like St. Louis. On the other hand, once someone gets the free land grant by putting A1 or B1 down, players will have to spend 6,000 for the top St. Louis card, then 7,000, then 8,000, then 9,000. As you can see, the payouts are much different than Denver. Just having one St. Louis card will get you 10,000, whereas having one Denver card will get you 5,000. And that's basically it for the second part of a player's turn. After that, that active player will go ahead and take one from the face down pile here to replenish their hand back up to 4 tiles. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Players will continue taking turns, putting tiles onto the board, acquiring these cards, receiving payouts, until a connection exists between St. Louis and Sacramento. It doesn't matter how it's done. It could exist this way. The connection could occur this way. It really doesn't matter, so as long as these two are connected. The player that puts the last tile down that connects them, or the last spike, as the name is mentioned here in the title, will get $20,000 as a bonus, and then a payout will occur as normal, and then the game will end. Now, players will disregard their cards after that. All that concerns them is the money they've earned throughout the game. The player with the most money will win. Okay, so there you have it, a very brief look at the last spike. It's important to stress that I did not cover all of the rules found in the manual. This was just to give you a general overview so that you could see how the game was played. As far as what I thought, honestly, this game is fantastic. It is like mini Acquire. If you've ever played the game Acquire, you'll know that you'll be putting lettered and numbered tiles onto a grid and then receiving payouts based on what happens. Same thing here, only it's much easier to play, it's quicker, it hits all the right spots with me. The components are great. I like the fact that the board, the cities are color-coded to match the cards, so they're easy to find, you don't have to hunt for them. My only complaint with the components was with the stickers. It was just a pain in the butt to get them on. But once you get the stickers on, that's it. It's a one-time deal. The board is, even, I didn't think I'd like this, you know, the fact that there's a sleeve and a pizza box-esque box insert here. But honestly, it's fine as is. The cardboard's actually nice and thick, so I'm not too worried about it there. And again, the components and the box insert, everything here is great, with the exception of having to put the stickers on, which is just a mild annoyance. Nothing too earth-shattering. But in terms of gameplay, this game is great. There's a lot of strategy here, like where you plan on putting your tiles down based on where you see where you see the connections going, and what cards to acquire as you play the game, or what cards to purchase as you play the game. For example, like you might be buying up a bunch of these Laramie cards, but if there's no chance that Laramie is going to be connected at all throughout the game, then buying these cards is incredibly worthless to you. So you sort of have to plan ahead and think, okay, so what cities are going to see a lot of action, and then hurry up and buy those cards. But at the same time, you have to be careful, because if you buy too many cards of a particular color, the other players may notice that, and then not help you establish those lines to that city. So you may have to end up cooperating with other players, like if by leaving some of these other city cards. Like if you have a Denver card and someone else has a Denver card and someone else has 2 Denver cards, then you're equally as inclined to get Denver to pay out because you'll all receive something. Whereas if you just have all the Denver cards, who's going to want to help you out so that you can make all that money yourself? So again, there's a little bit of cooperation here. You've got to pay attention to what other people are grabbing and either decide to help them out or not, depending on what you have. So again, just real quick, this game reminds me a lot like Acquire, but it's like a miniaturized version of it, and it's fantastic. So go check this game out. I highly recommend it. If you guys want to see my written review, you can, www.dadsgamingaddiction.com. If you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you can keep up to date with any new content I'm going to publish. This is Vince. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.